better to start and not have interruption in between. So that's why we always give that 5 minutes, not for any other reason. So today we're going to have a little conversation about how mentors can guide and help startups and so on. So I have with me today three very good friends and very good mentors who've been doing it for a long time, and I've been helping out mentors. So I'm going to maybe let them give a little bit of their perspective of what they think and believe mentoring can do for startups. So I think I'll start with, I mean, sometimes I reach out to Vishy for mentoring me too, and we've known each other for a long, long time. I think he was one of the first people I met when I moved to India about 12, maybe more than 12 years ago when I moved to India. And he was then, he had just come back from the US and he was looking after Thai. And I think I must have been one of his first chartered members he brought into Thai. So he's always been a great friend and he's been great supporter of a lot of the work I do. So Vishy, since you've been mentoring for a long time and successfully at it, give us your perspective on how mentors could support during this time, especially. I mean, we would have never thought we would experience something like this in our lifetime, where we are sitting at home. But in a way, it's good because we get to see more people online now than we ever did before.
True. That's true.
So, over to you for your few words of what you think, your perspective.
Okay. Thanks, Muthu. And what is the format? I mean, we take a.
So it's all free flow. You just give us your view, then I open it up after the three of you speak a little bit. I open it up and we have a conversation. It's not like the knowledge session or like the Ask Me series. This is just a chill out session.
Okay.
It's just like, because we can't have coffee, so we do this.
Yeah, I know. I know your sign up. First screen is so tempting. I wish you could supply coffee to all of us here.
We will.
But anyway, good evening to everybody. It's a pleasure, as Muthu said. We have known each other for a very long time, and just to give you a very quick background, most about myself. I'm an Madras alumnus, and I worked in the power industry for a few years. Then went to do my Ahmedabad, and since then I switched my career to IT industry. And in those days, just to give you an idea of how old or how long ago I joined the industry. At that time, there were 2,000 people all over India doing IT work. So you can imagine now probably it's, maybe 1 million people. I don't know. But TCS itself has got about 5 lakh people working for them. Cognizant has several. So I was there from those early days, and I went into banking technology, and with Citibank, I was JP Morgan, and I returned to India in 2007 after working with JP Morgan for several years. So in between, I have had some entrepreneurial stints, and there were fortunately we got funded at that time by Citibank and JP Morgan. So I have had that. I've felt those entrepreneurial pressures and agonies and the ecstasies of entrepreneurship. And but when I came back here, I thought that maybe it's enough for work in a corporate culture and let me do something different. And then I realized that there were people who sought advice from me because of my IT industry as well as the banking industry background, plus the gray hair I had, lot or no hair. So then I thought that, if I'm able to give quality time for them, and I went in without pretending that I know everything, but I had only their best interest in mind. I think there was benefit all around, and clearly I think I want to emphasize is that mentors are also as much in their learning process when they mentor, other youngsters and others, because there is so much to learn from interactions and the experiences others are going through. And even if you don't have the perfect solution, you can help them with thinking about the right thinking to get the perfect solution. And many times that's what mentors do. So number one is that mentors are those who can put the interest of the mentee foremost. They don't have any agenda that they have a product, they have a service they want to offer, or they have a fixed opinion of life or the government or the industry, and they want to convince others that that is the only way to look at things. So if people have this mind and they can put the mentees interest foremost, I think they are well qualified to be a mentor. That is the definition of mentor we have. And I'll just come to what kind of mentoring we all do. Mohan is part of this panel, and he can also talk about it. What do we do in IIT ecosystem? So the qualification for a mentor is not that he or she is an expert in any subject, and you don't have to be a PhD or a technology expert, but they have to have the ability, the empathy to understand the issues of the mentees, and they should probably definitely have the right kind of contacts they should to introduce so that the mentees can get the right advice, and also they help the mentee to think through the problem and then arrive at the right kind of an approach, and that they are there as a guide, and that's what mentorship is about. And IIT Madras ecosystem has a very, I think now, working, proven mentorship ecosystem, and we will talk about it later on as others give their views. But this is my opening, or statement or feeling about what mentorship is about, and I have enjoyed it. I have learned a lot from it.
Great. Thank you, Vishi. Before I let Mohan and Kannan say something, I'm supposed to do the poll first, which I forgot. So I let Archana do the poll first. Not Archana, Arishini is doing the poll. Arishini, you want to do the poll first?
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
If it's a, yeah. So the first poll question for today is the most important criteria in segmenting a business's customer is demographics, psychographics, buying criteria, and buying behavior, or it depends on the sector.
The link is on your chat box,
Yeah.
so please click the link and then you can respond.
Thank you, sir. So, yeah, we're getting responses, and so let's move on to the next question. Which social media network do you think is more effective for digital marketing? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn? Kindly give in your answers in the link given in the chat box. Okay, moving on to the next question. What makes a mentor-mentee relationship successful? A clear-cut vision on goal, trust, collaboration to solve problems, or commitment? So, are we receiving responses for that question? Moving on to the next question. Expectations on digital cafe. Awareness about the current scenario, networking opportunities, or the socio-economic learning. Yeah, we got responses. Thank you so much all for responding. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will review the polls at the end. Now, Mohan is another dear friend of mine, and we used to regularly walk almost every day, 10 kilometers or so, and sometimes even run. And of course, I haven't been able to do that for a long time before then done now. And he keeps asking me when I'm coming back. I am soon. So there you are. Over to you, Mohan. So let's give us your take on mentoring.
Okay. Thank you, Muthu. And before I start, just wanted to apologize. I lost the line for the first few minutes. So, Muthu, if you can just fill me for about
Okay.
5 seconds on what happened before I joined, so that.
Okay, basically, Vichy was asking me how do we do this? We have no set rules. We just a very like a chill session. It's like just in a coffee shop having a cup of tea and speaking. And Vichy said he wished the photo we have, he could have a real cup of that, which I promised I'd give him once we start back at HTIC. So that's basically it's just we just started this so everyone can chill on a Friday evening, talk about the week, and then I thought we'll have sort of a theme, so at least we discuss around the theme. So this week's
Super.
theme will be mentoring.
Mentoring, okay. Just to, I mean, since I can't see the people, how many folks are there in the call?
We have about over 20.
20, and they're all startups from HTIC, is it?
Not necessarily. They could be from other clusters as well within the, but mostly will be from the IIT network.
Oh,
Not
super.
necessarily, not necessarily HTIC, can be from main incubator, bio incubator, any of the incubators, because it's all open to all IIT.
Okay, so all are, I mean, incubatees in that sense.
Most of them are working with startups. Let's put it that way. Not necessarily a founder, but working with startups.
Okay, super. So thank you, Muthu, and hey, good evening, folks. It's unfortunate, we can't see each other. I would have loved to do this over a mug of beer, on a Friday evening. That's the right way to do this, but I guess now we'll have to do this virtually. So, I mean, I was hearing out Vishy when he started off the conversation. So just to introduce myself, right now I do nothing actually. So, but I have spent a lot of time in the industry. I was part of Cognizant as a part of their initial team that set up the offshore center. What I call as Cognizant 1.0. Now what's happening is Cognizant 2.0, which is very different. So I want to identify myself with Cognizant 1.0. And prior to Cognizant, I was in other IT companies. I worked a lot of time in Australia and US. And then, of course, during Cognizant, it was pretty much a global role. So um, spent a lot of time in many countries and clients. Then, of course, now I do a little startup, of course, more in the area of leadership development. And we do a lot of work in HR analytics. HR, honestly, I don't understand HR, but my colleague does. I'm a techie, but now I'm trying to understand HR. So we do a lot of work in HR analytics. Pretty interesting work, just to get our gray cells working all the time. I tried to dabble with some investments. I made some good investments. I was in the board of a company called Cyphomics, which is a life sciences KPO, which is incidentally, my domain has been healthcare and life sciences. So I got a good exit there, which made me happy. But having said that, I invested in many startups in India, and all of them, I think, are struggling. So in that sense, the jury is still out what will happen. So I have a lot of great friends. So we network like Muthu, Vishy are all great friends. I learn a lot from them actually. So walking is incidental. What is more important is the learning that happens as we walk. So that way, I'm privileged to have, and I think all of you should be privileged to have people like Muthu anchoring whatever you're trying to do and his team. In terms of mentoring, well, I don't know. I mean, I think As long as we don't become tormentors, I think it is okay. I try myself hard to not become a tormentor. I tell that to myself all the time. Saying that don't think you know more than what quote unquote mentees know. In fact, most of the time the mentees know more than us because they are on the ground and they know the field that they are working on. I have tried hard to restrict my role to ask a lot of stupid questions. And in the process, hopefully, something would trigger a thought and then, that would create some interesting conversations. So I've been trying, I've been working with, I won't use the word mentoring, but I've been working with many startups, some of them in the tech space, which I understand, some of them in some spaces, like what Vishy said, for example, I work with Rapti. Um, I don't understand electric vehicles. I don't understand motorcycles, but I've still been working with them for the last 9 months to get them up to speed. So those are very interesting conversations because I learned quite a bit of electric vehicles and battery technology and all that, at least to an extent where we can do conversations. So in that sense, I've been more a beneficial of mentoring exercises. I think we need to hear from you how you find mentoring and how you would like us to work differently. So right now I'm enjoying this initiative, talking to people and helping them. So I'm going to stop here and then get back to a conversation later on.
Yeah, and we have a third mentor. Kannan has been a great friend and he's been helping me out in terms of, because he's been working with particularly how to take medical devices to market. So he's been spending a whole lot of time with us. So let him also give us his view and then we'll open it for a free flow discussion. Kannan, please give us your opening views. Kannan, you need to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Muthu. Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks, Mr. Vishy, and also to Mr. Mohan. This is a great thing for me. For the first time, I'm doing something on the a large section of mentorship or working with mentees. I come from a background, briefly, I've been in the medical industry space from 1991. I have not dabbled into any other industry. In the last 14 years, I had been part of an entrepreneurship in which 2 companies were started and I exited out of both companies and then went back to working, and now I'm doing a consulting business for most companies out there. I look at mentorship as what I learned in terms of how to interact with doctors, understanding this medical devices space, and also to look at how exactly a product development, when it finally goes to a customer, what would they look at. And that's an area which I think I know quite well. That's the one area that I focus on with most mentors or mentees, and then tell them how to take the product to the market. That's it. Thanks, Muthu. Thanks for the interview.
Okay, great. Before we get into any questions from me, there is already a question on the chat board. So, Krishnan, you can directly speak to the mentors. And ask them directly the question. Go for it. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
This is Professor Ravi Krishnan. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Go on, we can hear you.
Good evening, Muthu sir, and good evening to everybody. I just wanted to know the present situation is making us a little bit, putting us on hold for planning many other of our activities. So what is the most important thing a startup must do to keep moving forward in spite of these kind of hurdles? So how do you advise this, sir?
Okay, this
Anyone
question
can
for
answer one.
any of us?
Mohan,
Sorry.
you can go for
Sorry.
it.
Oh, okay.
Anyone can answer, no problem. Go for it.
Okay, I'll so I think current situation where I presume that is the COVID restrictions we are talking about, and I think the first or one of the first things which take the analogy of you're in a car and you have to reach a destination, and then you have this major problem developing. First thing you should see is the first thing you need to do is pull out to a side of the road, and then see how much petrol you've got, how much is if there is weather conditions, what is there, how long you have to drive, and are there any threats to you. The same kind of thing. You are an entrepreneur, you are in a journey, and you have started the journey assuming that there is this problem which needs a solution. You have the right solution, and who is the target market, etc., and market conditions, competition, etc. Everything, the whole business model has been arrived at basic based on some assumptions. So first thing is, I think, take a pause and immediately look at, reevaluate the whole set of assumptions your business model is based on. Has anything changed? Again, if it is changed, is it changed for the short term, or is it going to change for the long term? And so one is that reevaluation is one part of it, and I will we can talk about it more as and when more questions come. So reevaluation of the business assumptions and the business model is one thing, and part of that, some people may discover that the demand itself is vanished, or demand is shrunk so much. Example we can give is travel industry, hospitality industry, and so on. So if that is there, then you have to see what else, what do I need to do, and do I assume closing my eyes that the problem will go away, or we wait for the demand to come back. So all that is part of the reevaluation. The second thing is, let's say that there is a pause, and then you feel that everything else more or less is the same, but your customers are not in a state to pay or buy, and because their market is affected in a B2B situation, then you need to also evaluate how much cash do you have, how much are you how much gas you have in your car to keep running, and then you have to take the suitable actions on whether you stop, pause the business, or downsize the business, and so on. So all that is possible ways to address it, but the most important starting point would be, I think, reevaluating your business assumptions and critically examining your business model and how it will affect you. I think that will be a good start.
Cool. Mohan and Kannan, guys would like to
Sure.
add to this?
Yeah, just to make sure that I don't repeat anything that Vichy said, and all of them are brilliant points. So just to draw the comparison there, he talked about gas. So the most from a business standpoint, if you're already started your business, conserving cash becomes very, very important. This is a time when you have to be absolutely frugal in your expenditure. If you have to cut salaries, you have to be very brutal to yourself in these times, because that is what will bring out the best in you. So cut your salaries, cut the staff salary if required, cut down your other expenses. If you have an office space, negotiate with the landlord and renegotiate the rent. In fact, which is what I did actually. So I negotiated rent with our office landlord, and he has agreed to take 50% cut. So, and then he has further said we negotiated and said if it goes beyond 3 months, we'll have to make it 20%. So on the ground, you have to do all those things, and this is the time for you to huddle together as a team and figure out your business model in terms of creating new skills, new competencies, whatever is required. So I'm going to stop here.
Okay, Kannan, would you like to add something?
Yep. So my quick suggestion is there would be a lot of things which you would have postponed when you were doing your journey, which you would have said you will do it at some point of time. Please take this time to finish off all that work now, because you have a lot of free time. Ensure if you want to do documentation, you want to understand processes to be rewritten or redo everything, look at the business critically and then redo everything, whatever you could do, because you did not have time that point of time. Please go ahead and do it all. Thanks.
Okay, now I am going to ask you probably a very open-ended question. Do you think we need to create mentoring programs in a structured manner? Maybe, Kannan, you can start off with.
definitely it is, if it is good for the mentor as well as to the mentee to understand what the deliverables are and what the expectations are from both sides. In many cases, when it is not structured, what happens is the topic of discussions moves away from understanding of the subject and also moves into areas where the mentees would be expecting a lot more support from the mentor. And the mentor may not have the related experience in that space. If it is done very systematically, it also tells when the mentor has to say or say to the mentee that this area doesn't look at my expertise, I'll have to bring in somebody else for you to support at this point. So in
Okay.
that journey, it will be useful if you have a structured methodology.
Okay. Mohan, what would you like to, what do you
Yeah,
think?
again, I want to add. So at the minimal, folks, have at least a mail interaction which says, these are the things that we want to discuss today. These were the things that we discussed last time, and these were the action items. And out of those action items, this is what I have completed, and these are things that I still need help on completing. So to that extent, at least a minimal amount of documentation and a structured process helps, because it makes sure that we stay on track with respect to the discussion. At the same time, if it becomes too much of structure, it spoils the creativity. So somewhere at this point is what I would recommend.
Okay, great. Mishi?
Yeah, I think that it requires both, as Mohan says, but I would say that the structure part comes in the process, managing the process, not in terms of the actual content of the mentoring, because each mentoring situation is very different. The mentee issues, the qualifications of the mentor, the trust levels, because I think one of the things it needs to be emphasized is that ultimately it is very much based upon trust between them. So formality in terms of arranging meetings, making sure there are action items and their follow-ups, etc., is important. But the actual conversation has to be, a person-to-person type of conversation, which is, and each their level that they have to establish that level of mutual commitment between mentee and mentor.
Okay,
It
great.
cannot be enforced from outside.
Okay, great. Okay, my next topic of conversation here would be, why do you think mentoring programs are required?
To whom? With
Anyone can, I mean, we will even let the audience reply if they want to reply. Whoever feels, why is it important? What do we need mentoring programs?
Yeah, it'd be good to hear from the audience.
The audience, what do you think? Some of the startups, what do you feel as startups? Do you think mentoring helps? How does it go? I mean, we have Sridhar, one of our very experienced startups. Sridhar, what is your view? Oh, you can't unmute. Sridhar can't unmute. Never mind. Okay, Arvind, you are there. You also do mentoring sometimes. So what do you feel? Do you think we need mentoring programs in place for all this?
Oh yeah, actually I muted myself. Is it okay to speak?
Sridhar, go for it. Sridhar is one of our...
The issue is the thing is very clear. I mean, each of us has some experience in some background. I mean, whatever we have done, right? However, the world is very big, and when you encompass on certain areas, you would know a lot of areas in there. So getting mentorship in the areas where your experience and expertise doesn't exist would be of great value. So, for example, I come from technological background, managing people in operations, but marketing, understanding the healthcare space, I mean, that's something which we don't have much idea. So getting mentored, like say from Kannan, Nilkantan, we have got good information from it. That's been great value. So it actually sets us in direction. Otherwise, we'll be sticking to our assumptions, and by the time we validate the assumptions and get back to the drawing board, it will take a lot of time. And so mentor helps a lot.
Okay, that's a fair point from the other side, where Sridhar is not Sundar is also that. You want to say something, Sundar?
Yeah, no, I just, on top of what Sridhar said, I personally feel that, and I've also been a mentor in my professional career to many people. I think it's more than a program. I think it should be left to the mentee to seek out a mentor, depending on what he or she wants to get out of that person, right? And then that would actually be the first criteria for a successful mentoring program. Otherwise, it will be like you are supposed to have a mentor, so why don't you select a mentor and then we will connect you and then you see if you hit it off.
Okay.
To me, that doesn't work. I need to have a burning desire to get some information or some guidance in a certain area or get my perspectives right. What is my problem statement? And then when I go to a mentor, then there's at least 30-40% I can get out of that.
I think that's a very valid point, Sundar. Unless the mentee is seeking out for some information or some kind of support, the mentor is probably just giving lip service and wasting his time also. I think that's a very valid point. I think it is very important that the mentees come out openly and say, hey, I need the following mentoring, can you help me? So I think that's a fair point. And it's so encouraging to see that even people like Sridhar and Sundar, who are very experienced professionals, having lots of experience, they still reach out to someone like Kannan in an area they are not familiar with, like marketing, for example. And I mean, Kannan is very experienced in marketing, and vice versa. I guess he would reach out on technology to others. So it's really really good to do that. Now, can we hear from one of the younger startups? Where we have Jilma, we have Arun, we have Frederick. All these guys are young startups. Any of the Jilma, you want to? You've been attending some of these mentoring programs. Give us
Yes, sir.
you're all young startups.
Yes, sir. Hi, good evening, everyone. So yeah, mentoring sessions has been like very helpful for me. Actually, during this COVID time, I find myself, getting a lot of mentoring. So that way, the insights which I get from these experienced mentors, I have been, able to implement that and see a, difference in our the way we thought how we'll go about with our technology. So that way it has helped a lot. I had mentoring from Kannan sir. So he's a very experienced person in the health tech field. So many things we never thought about. He gave insights on such points, and it is like very helpful. So I find it very helpful.
Okay, great. Dhanush, you are there also. You just finished your PhD, starting a great startup. How do you relate to all these mentors who are trying to help you? You need to unmute. You need to unmute Dhanush.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, actually here I have some problem with the network. Can you just come again with the question, sir?
I said you being a young startup, you just started the startup, you just finished your PhD, and you've been attending lots of these activities, mentoring in the different areas. What's your view on this mentoring? How do you think is mentoring helping you? How is it getting you to your next level? Whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, as a fresh person out of PhD and looking into perspectives of making a sustainable workforce. So what I have felt is like these sessions are very useful because we are also facing the people, the mentors, the leaders who are coming for these sessions. They tell their opinions and their experiences to us, which are very useful from my perspective, and that's what I feel, because they have gone through this process and they know what are the regular things that they come across, which as a researcher and as a new person to the a new person to a startup or a new person to this environment doesn't know. So when I feel this, I felt like most of the points get matched with whatever the mentors actually tell. Today also, when they were speaking about so many things, I was feeling like, okay, we are just going through that process, and I feel like I'm getting validated at every
Okay,
level,
very
sir.
good.
So that's what I feel. So that's the important thing I was felt. I also get motivated because many times as a new person, no, I used to think whether am I even doing it correctly, or am I even going in the right process, because in dark I'm always kept in dark, not always in the sense you're going into that process, right? So when I in recent times of this COVID, what it has taught me is, okay, everyone who have been through your point have also went through this path only. So I'm motivated right now. That's the thing, sir. Actually, these sessions are very useful and helpful for people like me, especially like me. Yeah, that's what I can tell you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Muthu, I would like to add my 2 cents.
Please, Arvind, please, it's
Hey,
free
hi.
flow. This is not like any of other our programs. This is free flow. Everyone just jump in, but give everybody who's speaking a chance to speak, and then the next person speak. So, Arvind, please go.
Yeah, thank you, Muthu. Yeah, I think in my opinion, see, most of the startups are small teams. So a pair of critical eyes and ears who can look at the problem and the situation from a distance with a critical eye, I think will be giving a lot of insights to the entrepreneurs or the promoters. So from that point of view, I think mentoring is definitely useful. Except that both the mentor and the mentee has to be aware that what a mentor probably would be saying may not be the final word. So mentees need to be a little bit aware that what mentor may be saying may not be the absolute truth, but obviously he can add a critical angle to the whole insights while running the business. So probably that's one. Another thing is most of the startups would be the young entrepreneurs, whereas most of the mentors would be the experienced people. And we all know that we learn maximum by mistakes, not by doing something but by making mistakes. So I think mentees can specifically look at some of these red flags that mentors can bring in, from what works, what doesn't work, what could be possible, what could be catastrophic if it's attempted. I think if mentee kind of looks at that angle, gaining from the experience of the mentors, I think that again could be very useful. That could help them avoiding major catastrophes and things like that.
Okay, cool. There is a question in the chat box, but this time you can ask the question directly. You know everybody.
Yeah, thank you. So the question was, most of the mentors deal with mentees' inexperience and knowledge in certain areas. So most mentees are living in a very idealistic world, and they tend to. It's good that they're positive, but they tend to be a little unrealistic about the environment outside. So what's the mentee's role in actually bringing them to the reality from the experience?
Rishi?
Okay. I think there are, as
Mohan,
somebody.
I think there's
Can you hear me?
from your thing.
Can you hear me?
Go.
Okay. So as somebody mentioned, I think I would say that mentees, I think one of the success factors for a good mentoring relationship is the mentee's desire to seek guidance. And seeking guidance and help is, I think, a very important necessary step for them to draw more from the mentors. So so one of the things which the mentors, in terms of help, there are three areas I think the mentors can bring in, and probably that is where the help is needed. One is knowledge, second is experience, and the third is wisdom. Okay. I think knowledge, if the entrepreneur wants to know whether this will work, that will not work, etc. Usually the mentors are not necessarily the right persons to provide that knowledge. They can seek that knowledge, or mentors can guide them where to get the knowledge, etc. In terms of the experience and lack of skills, etc., which the mentee or the entrepreneur needs, then that definitely so as somebody said earlier, the mentor's own successful and failed experiences are going to be useful so much, and that is usually the mentors bring that, and that's totally not replaceable. You cannot learn it in a textbook or a classroom. And the third aspect is equal important, but people don't seek it, is the wisdom part. Okay, you can have the right knowledge, you can have the right experiential information from the mentors, but what is the right thing to do? What is a wise thing to do? Okay, is it ethical? Okay, these are all things which the mentors can bring in if they have handled that kind of responsibilities. And I think combining all this, I think it will help the mentees to round off their experience and knowledge and skills and capabilities. So that's why it cannot be, each mentor is different, so it cannot be done through a structured program. Except knowledge can be given through classrooms, experience can't be, and wisdom is definitely not. It's a relationship. I don't know, Pratishta, whether it kind of addresses some of the question which you had. Maybe Mohan and Kannan can add their views to this.
I mean, if I can add my 2 cents, Pratishtha, see, I mean, I don't necessarily agree that, the mentees or the startups come from an idealistic situation. Because if they come from an idealistic situation, it's actually a bad thing. Because the fundamental thing that an entrepreneur does or a startup does is they have already come away from a comfort zone and got into a conflict zone by taking up a startup kind of route. So it is in that sense, I think we should give them a credit and recognize them for the fact that they've taken up the path. So they already come out of the comfort zone. What is the role of the mentor is to make sure that they don't get into a comfort zone back at any point in time. In fact, some of the startups get into a comfort zone when they get a lot of money, for example. So I mean, there has been a lot of debates. I know Vishy, we all had a lot of debates on this aspect, especially. So there has to be a lot of role that mentors and incubators have to do to make sure that that they don't get into any kind of comfort zone going forward.
Okay, Kannan, you'd like to add anything to that?
My 2 cents is most of the mentees try to find a mentor when they are in deep trouble. Actually, that should not be the case. Most of the time, it should be that when the going is good, it is to use them as a sounding board to understand whether they are in the right path or not. I would say from a mentee's point of view, it is very good to be idealistic because that's what keeps the passion going. It also, in many cases, what a mentor has gone through hardships, some of these things have changed based on the environment. A lot of those factors don't apply nowadays. So I would rather try to find what are the areas in which they would require support, and if it is possible for me to guide them, that's the area that I look at. But I want them to be idealistic. I want them to solve problems which are otherwise thrown out because of practical thinking which others think about. I think technology is available, new ways of looking at things are available now.
Okay, fair enough. So we are saying that they need to mentor at good and bad times as well. It's not only when things are bad. That's what we are saying. Okay, and what else would you like to? I mean, in terms of you guys have been doing mentoring for some time. What do you look at an ideal mentee, or is there such a thing? Is there such a thing as an ideal mentee?
Yeah, too close for comfort.
Too close for comfort. Okay. No worries. I have a question in the chat box, so I'll let Arun ask that. Arun, you can ask that question. Arun is a former boy. Mohan. Arun, you can. We can't unmute, so I'll ask you that. You try unmuting it and work. Try. You can't.
Can't hear.
Hello.
Yes, now we can hear.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you, sir. Thanks for this opportunity. So my question is, what are the things that a mentee should prepare for in terms of finding the right mentor so that the mentor-mentee relationship is fruitful?
How to find the right mentor, you're asking.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I'll take the first shot just to give that breathing time to Vishy and Kannan. So, see, there are two things, right? One is the ideal scenario is you find your mentor in your own way. And the mentor can be from your family, from your friend circle, people whom you trust. So that is one approach that you can take, and then it becomes something which is fully in your control. And you can, if you have some role models that you can look up to, that is a path you should definitely indulge. Now, if that is not possible, and that may be the case for many of the startups that come here, um, now keep in mind that all the mentoring platforms or the incubators, they operate with a database. Now, the database, for example, if you look at the IIT incubation system, they have a database of alumni and their friends maybe, who are part of their database. Now, is that database the best available in the world? Obviously, no. But at the same time, that's a good database for you to look at. And within that database, there are some, obviously you can do a drilling down on their profile and what they have done and what are their areas and everything. And based on that, identify a set of people that you might like to work to and connect with them. What the mentoring system here in the IIT incubation cells do is, they bring the mentors and they try their best to match the mentors and the mentee, and to in some way align. So that is what the IIT Madras incubation, the entrepreneurship forum, they all do that. So that is the other way of doing it. Now, what works for one will not work for the other. So it's not a one size fits all. You have to look at what will work for you and then take corrective action. If a mentor doesn't work for you, for God's sake, please don't stay with them. Change it as fast as possible. Mentors will not get offended. You talk to the incubation cell, and talk to Muthu or Pratishtha and change the mentors. I'll stop here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me add a couple of things here. One is slightly a different dimension. Is that it depends on what stage you are in your own entrepreneurship journey. And one of the analogies which I use is that your schooling system, right? I mean, you are in the uh, first few classes, first few standards, what do you call it, primary school, middle school, high school type of a thing. At different types of, just looking back, what you were, how you were in those days, you needed different kind of teachers, or let's substitute mentors, teachers for mentors for the school knowledge. You need a different set of styles of those people to give you the most value. I think mentoring in this aspect has can draw parallels from there. If you are somebody, if you're a inexperienced, let's say fresh out of college kind of entrepreneur, you've always depended on guidance. You're not ready to face failures. You are always uncertain about your next steps, etc. Maybe you need somebody like a primary school teacher type of a mentor, which is people who are gentle, people who are able to nurture, people who are able to keep your enthusiasm alive, but at the same time guide you in the right directions. And when you're progressed to something which is like a started earning revenues, or you're launching the product, or you're 1 or 2 years into your entrepreneurship venture, you probably need mentors who are quite demanding, in terms of, did you look at this analysis? Did you do a SWOT analysis? Did you look at the market? Do secondary research to estimate, market size, etc. So the college professor can't teach necessarily the best teacher for the primary school. The primary school teacher cannot be necessarily the college teacher. So remember that it depends on who or what stage you are in your cycle. The second thing is, I want to mention that in the IIT Madras incubation cell, the approach, as Mohan said, and as Kannan said also, that your trust is very important. So the trusting relationship is very important. And there is nobody in the world says that you should only choose your one mentor. It's not like arranged marriage or marriage where you have to find only one partner. There could be several mentors for you, and one could be from the system, One could be from your relations, friends, etc. So it's not like you have to find the right mentor. And secondly, that those mentors need not be the same mentors 5 years from now. So I just wanted, but the IIT incubation system enables you to find the right mentors through a process called mentoring clinics, where you get to see many of the mentors. You see who's got the right, who you gel with in terms of chemistry, and then you can decide who your mentor is going to be. And many of the startups have chosen their mentors in the IIT incubation system.
Great. Kannan, you want to add to that?
No, no, I'm okay. I think both of them are covered.
Okay, cool. So now what I'll do is, Arishini, you can do your quiz now.
Yes, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you. So participants, kindly enter your choice of answer in the chat box. So the first question for quiz is, Neon, the artificial human, is claimed to have been developed by option A, Star Labs of Samsung, option B, Apple Inc., option C, Microsoft Corporation, and option D, Adobe. Yes, sir. So the first correct answer is given by Mr. Sridhar.
Okay,
Moving on
next
to the next
question.
question. The bank which has deployed robotic arms for currency sorting. Option A, HDFC, option B, ICICI, option C, Axis, and option D, Yes Bank. Requesting the participants to kindly give in your answers in the chat box.
Okay, nobody.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so the answer was given by Mr. Arun Kumar Ramaswamy. The answer is option B, ICICI Bank. Moving on to the next question. What is the most common way to receive a phishing scam? It is option A, text message, or option B, email, or option C, downloading fill-ins, or is it option D, unsafe websites? So, yeah. The answer was given by Mr. Yash. The answer is option B, email. In the last question, composition scheme under GST is applicable to business with a turnover up to option A 1 crore, option B 1.5 crore, option C 2 crore, and option D 2.5 crore. Kindly give in your answers in the chat box, please. We've not got the right answer still.
Okay.
So yeah.
Never mind, you can give the answer if no one has replied.
Okay, sir. Yeah. So the right answer is option B, rupees 1.5 crores.
Okay.
So that's it for the quiz. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you want to talk about you've done now 4 weeks of quiz. Do you want to sort of announce
Yeah.
anything?
So yeah. We are now done with the 4 weeks of quiz. Earlier 4 weeks back, we've informed we'll be giving a gift card to the person who has got the highest points. So we've collated for the last 3 weeks, and we are doing it for the 4th week. We'll announce the person who has got the highest points in another 2 minutes or so. We can have the poll results. Can we have it now, sir?
Yeah, we can. Let's look at our polls, and then you can announce the person who's got the thing. Take a look at
Yes,
the
sir.
polls. Who's doing the polls? Archana.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'll be sharing the screen now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Archana, you can do it.
Yes, so the first question, the most important criteria in segmenting a business customer. For this question, we have the maximum number of votes on the last option, depending on the sector, followed by demographics and physiographics and buying criterion, buying behavior on the same level.
Okay.
So the next question, which social media network do you think is more effective for digital marketing? We got maximum number of polls for the LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter on the same level, and followed by the Facebook.
Okay.
The next question, what makes a mentor-mentee relationship successful? Many people have voted for collaboration to solve problems, followed by trust. And then the options, a clear set vision on goal and commitment on the same level, sir.
Okay.
So the expectation on digital cafe, the maximum number of votes for networking opportunities, followed by awareness about the current scenario, and finally the socio-economic learning.
Okay, very good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can announce your quiz thing, whoever's
Yes, sir.
announcing it.
Shreya, for the past 4 weeks, we've collated the total points, and Mr. Yash Navashit from C3 Metic has got the highest points, which is 5. So thank you, Yash, for that, and we'll be mailing you the gift card
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
for the highest point.
Okay, thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir, thank
It's
you.
the top of the hour. As always, we like to keep the time. I want to say thank you very much to my dear friend Vishy for coming all and spending the hour with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank you, Muthu.
Thank you.
Much. And yes, I will come back and walk with you soon. And very much for spending a whole lot of time with us, helping us make it much useful down at. As usual, must thank the HTIC team for just Archana, Arshini, and also Sumitra from Uber. Thank you very much. We have this every Friday. Even the mentors can come visit, join, give your input. We'll be delighted to have you come and work with us. And with that, thank you very much. Stay safe. Have a pleasant weekend. Thank you. Thank you very much to all of you. Bye.
This is a
Bye
good,
bye.
good
Thank you.
interaction. Good interaction,
Yeah.
Muthu. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Muthu. Good.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
Had
Thank you.
fun.
Thank you. We'll see you all soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.